Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is facing criticism for comments he made recently, accusing the Prime Minister of seeking to impose his radical gender ideology on kids and schools. The comments were made at a meet and greet with members of the Chinese Canadian community in Richmond Hill. They are captured on video and published by the Western Standard and Press Progress.
Trudeau does not have a right to impose his radical gender ideology on our kids and on our families.
LGBTQ plus groups are condemning those comments as hateful and harmful. Now, we did reach out to Mr. Poilievre's office for clarification of his comments or an interview, but did not receive a response. Meanwhile, the man seen nodding and clapping in that video has apologized. In a statement to Press Progress, Deputy Mayor of Richmond Hill, Godwin Chan, apologized to anyone who may have viewed his reaction as harmful. Helen Kennedy is the Executive Director of Egale, Canada's leading LGBTQ plus rights group. Helen, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me on.
I'd like to start, if I could, with this specific phrase, radical gender ideology. Why do you object so strongly to that term? What is it that it implies to you?
Right. I mean, we object strongly to it because we believe it to be dangerous, because it's a direct attack on the gains that the LGBTI community and women's groups across the country have fought so hard for over the last 40 years. So it's a dangerous rhetoric, and it's something that we're very concerned about going forward.
So you call it in your statement, you call these comments hateful and harmful and part of a misinformation-fueled hate campaign. Walk me through what makes it so dangerous to you.
So it is appealing to it's seen as an opportunity, I think, by social conservatives to really power and rapidly mobilize socially conservative people against a particular population, which in this instance is the LGBTI community. The rhetoric is harmful, it's dangerous. We know, because we work in these areas, we know the damage that this rhetoric does, and it's veiled language for homophobia and transphobia, and it really is discriminatory against our populations.
Well, what is the damage that you see working in this area? I know people have expressed concern about the battle over pronouns, for example, the impact that has on young kids. What are you seeing firsthand?
So we're seeing high dropout rates in schools, for example. We're seeing high rates of homelessness. The LGBTI population on the street is the highest of any population. We're seeing high suicide rates. We see mental health rates, access to healthcare. I mean, there are a myriad of issues that this type of rhetoric causes, because it does cause real harm. Even in the courts recently in Saskatchewan, the judge said that this pronoun policy that was introduced by the Moe government is causing and can cause irreparable harm on young people.
So we are seeing, though, this alignment, these political alliances forming on this issue. How do you view it when Mr. Poilievre, who is the front runner to be Prime Minister, uses these words?
I view it very cautiously and skeptically. I think we finally flushed the hornet out of the nest, because we've been waiting for him to take a position one way or another with respect to LGBTI and specifically trans rights in recent months. And I think he's shown his true colors here. It's really unfortunate. And as I said earlier, it's a dangerous position for him to take.
Well, he has said in the past that people in this country should be free to be who they want to be, to love who they want to love. He's a staunch advocate of individual freedom, but on that issue of gender and pronouns, he says that's an issue of parents' rights. So how do you view that stance in alignment with the phrase that he said at this gathering in Richmond Hill?
Yeah, I think that parental rights are paramount in terms of raising a child. However, the parent's right does not trump the child's right to their own identity and their own gender identity. And this is where we have issue. And we know that once we have family supports and parental supports in place, that young people do and fare much better. Once the parent is not aligned, then we have issues around mental health, dropouts, homelessness, and we know that this causes irreparable harm. So I really feel strongly that Mr. Poilievre needs to reconsider his position, because it's ignorant and it's uneducated.
Well, you said you've flushed the hornet out of the nest, I believe was the phrase you used. What do you think, in your view, this reveals about the Conservative leader?
Well, I think he's really showing his true colors here. I don't think we can argue that he's not showing that, his homophobic, transphobic tendencies when it comes to gender identity and the rights of young people to self-identify and self-determine who they are as individuals. And if he's doing it with the LGBTI community, who's to say that he won't do it with the women's community around the right to choose, and racialized groups and other marginalized groups within our societies?
He does have gay members of his caucus. His deputy leader is a lesbian. So they do have prominent positions. People, do hold prominent positions within the Conservative Party. So you use the phrase homophobic and transphobic tendencies. Are you speaking broadly or simply on the issue when it comes to kids in schools?
I'm speaking on the issue of young people and their right to self-determine their identities. I think it's incumbent upon the members of his caucus who are members of our communities to hold their leader accountable, because this is causing irreparable harm to many people in our societies. And, I think that all of us have struggled at some point to discuss various things with our parents. Some of us probably to this day never talk about certain issues with our parents. And young people today are no different. And I would hope that we would err on the side of caution here and take our direction from the young people directly involved.
We've reached out to Mr. Poilievre's office. There's been no explanation or clarification in the days since this comment was made, and it's not just us, it's other media organizations that have been asking. We have seen the Deputy Mayor of Richmond Hill, who was there, who issued a statement apologizing if his applause caused offence. How do you view the lack of response from the Conservative leader to this point?
Well, I think, his representatives did say that they stood by their video. And so I would assume that he stands by what he said. And so this is very troubling. And I would hope that he would reach out potentially to either Egale or potentially his own caucus members to have further conversations on these issues, because it's really a difficult thing to see that the state could potentially be sanctioning violence against its own citizens.
So I take it from your comment, no one from the party has reached out to your organization. Have you reached out to Mr. Poilievre's office? Would you reach out to Mr. Poilievre's office, offering to meet and speak with you?
Yes, the stakes are very high here, and anything that we can do to help educate, we would be more than happy to do it.
Helen Kennedy, the Executive Director of Egale, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me on.